Nobody wants to be posting their story here, but when we end up with a story to be posted, we just have to. There's a lot to learn, both from the lurkers and the OPs. Today I'm an OP because I have some very strong suspicions about my soon-to-be wife, and I really need the help of all of you to figure out whether I'm overthinking things or not. So, I, 32 male, have been dating my fiancée, 30 female, for over 8 years now. I met her when she was a senior in college, and I was walking through the campus with my younger brother who was touring schools that he was considering attending. She was wearing a Hosier t-shirt, and since I absolutely love him as an artist, I just had to strike up a conversation with her. Well, it started as just a comment, but I really hoped that she'd engage me more, and she did. I remember my brother being annoyed as he had to stand off to the side while I yapped on with a random girl. To save him the stress though, I got her number and we went to continue the tour. Just for reference, I was 2 years out of college at the time, so I wasn't poaching college girls like some kind of creep. Anyway, we started chatting a lot from that point, and very quickly we began to date because she really seemed like everything that I've ever sought in a partner. A year ago on her birthday, I proposed to her because she's always talked about how she doesn't mind stacking happy occasions. Needless to say, she was thrilled by it, and so was I. That she said yes to me. Before you come at me, I only proposed to her after so long because she always made it clear how she wanted to be financially stable before she ever thought of marriage. Well, she had a job and a place of her own, so it really did seem like the right time after so long. Now, we've been busy planning a wedding, which of course is a massive headache, but I think we agree on a lot, and we have a fantastic wedding planner, so things are going incredibly smooth for us. The wedding is in just about 5 weeks, and I really can't wait for it to be over, just because of all the stress that's involved. Once the day comes though, I'll be sure to cherish it as much as I can. Anyway, that's enough on that. I think I started to notice that something was off with my fiancée about 2 weeks ago. It seemed that she was really beginning to act shifty, and when I'd ask simple questions like, "Are you okay?" because I noticed a shift in her mood, she'd respond oddly, saying things like, "What makes you think I'm not okay?" though not in an aggressive way. I started to think that there was some kind of wedding pressure getting to her, but every time I tried to talk to her about it, she insisted that there was no issue whatsoever. However, I also started to notice some odd behavior from her. If I'd walk into a room she was in suddenly, she'd jolt or startle most times, like she was caught in the act of doing something. I also noticed that she started to guard her phone preciously. She must have felt like it wasn't overwhelmingly obvious, but she couldn't leave her phone around me for a minute at a time. It would always follow her around, which was quite odd to me. Like, she might say she wants to grab something from the car downstairs, be out the door already, and then rush back in to grab her phone. And that's for things that don't take her more than 2 or 3 minutes. Honestly, having known her for such a long time, it really stuck out to me as being odd. I think I started to have a very strong suspicion as to what might have been going on when I just managed to see a notification pop up on her phone when she was lying beside me from a contact called Alex. She swiped it away in less than a second, and after about 5 seconds, she looked up at me. I know she tried to play it off like she was simply looking at me out of the blue, but I think she wanted to see if I saw what she didn't want me to see. I mean, maybe I'm overthinking this, but I've always been logical and I prefer to overthink and be wrong rather than not think at all. Now, the thing is, I know only one Alex that has anything to do with my fiancé, and that's the one that she used to date. Yep, Alex is an ex of hers. It might not have been the same one, but considering how quickly she dismissed the notification, I knew that it was almost surely him. There couldn't be any other Alex that would make her react that way. She told me all about this guy in our first year of dating. She had started dating him when she was 19, and they had broken up a year before we met. She didn't seem to be longing over him back then. She really seemed over him. However, she told me all about him and he was a proper a-hole, though she somehow still couldn't keep away from him. That was probably because he was her first real relationship. So he wasn't physically abusive or anything as bad as that, but he was a proper a-hole. He'd be the kind not to return her calls all the time. She apparently suspected that he cheated a lot, but she was too dumb and young and in love back then to be able to see the signs. She made the conclusion in retrospect. And he pretty much seemed to be there for the advantages that a young, hormonal active man finds in a woman. I made that conclusion and never shared it with her. She loved him a lot though, according to her, but she seemed to get over him without much fuss. So, considering all that I know about this Alex fella, it seems odd that she might be talking with him and doing it behind my back. She's been vocal most of our relationship, especially when guys come up to her when she's out at the grocery store or work and so on. But the fact that she might be talking to Alex regularly now and I don't know anything about it seems odd. I needed to know more, but I really doubted that I would get the truth from her. If I decided to ask her, she could lie, clean up the evidence, and I'd never know the truth. That's why it'd be better for me to dive in and try and find the truth myself first. So, I knew that I was going to have to try and check her phone, but honestly, I haven't gotten the chance to. I've been casually asking her for her phone to check things, using the excuse that my phone isn't anywhere nearby, but it isn't something that I usually do, so I feel like she might start to get suspicious and wonder what's up with me. She also caught me holding her phone at one point. I thought she'd be gone for a few minutes and I'd be able to check what I wanted to check, but she was back in like half a minute. She didn't say anything about it, but she gave me an odd look. Ever since then, it's been easier to get into Fort Knox than her phone. When she sleeps, she tucks it under her pillow now, which is something she's never done. I've been overthinking a lot, and I even thought of drugging my fiancée so that I can get a chance to look at her phone. I swear, it was just a passing thought and I never actually do that, but I really don't think I'm going to be able to catch her phone unguarded, and that just makes me incredibly wary of what might be going on with her. In the end, I might just have to confront her and hope that she'll tell me the truth about what's going on. Perhaps if I let her in on the fact that I know enough, she'll spill the beans. The only thing I know for a fact, though, is that she's talking to someone called Alex and that she seemingly has something to hide from me. But perhaps that's all I need to know. If some of you reading this can help me out, I want to know how I can potentially approach this to get her to tell me the truth, or any tricks I can use to get access to her phone long enough to confirm or allay my fears. Thanks, guys. Edit. I see there's a common consensus that I'll entirely be unable to snoop through her phone with the way things currently are, at least unless she slips up in a major way, and I certainly can't wait upon a mistake like that from her. So it seems like the best idea seems to be for me to just try and talk to her and use my own gut to decide whether she's telling the truth or not. This is someone that I'm about to get married to, so if I feel that she's not being honest, I might think it'd be worth just tucking tail and leaving, even though I'll never get confirmation of the truth or proper closure. I think I'd be able to live with that though. Well, I think. Anyway, I'll get back to you all and let you know if I actually have any luck. Sit down with her, share your concerns, and see if she can provide the reassurance you need. If she's not willing to talk, or if you're not satisfied with her answers, that might be all the answers you need. Sometimes the answers you're seeking aren't about what's going on within her phone, but about the overall health and openness of your relationship. Ultimately, this conversation should help you decide whether you're on the same page about your future together, or if it might be time to reassess where you stand. Update 1. Well, wow. I have an update to the story that I came to tell a week ago. A quick recap. I suspected that my fiancé might have been cheating on me, or at the very least, talking to a long-forgotten ex behind my back. I came to the conclusion that I was going to confront her about it since she wasn't giving me any chance to go through her phone. She was guarding it in a way that was quite abnormal. In the time since I wrote that first post, I've really been deliberating on how I could gain access to her phone. Yes, I know I reached the conclusion that I'd just ask her, but I didn't think I'd get the truth from her. The problem was, I think it was really starting to affect my mood to the point that she noticed that something was wrong, and since she was the cause of it, I wasn't exactly a sweetheart to her. I wasn't an a-hole either, but it was clear that something was the matter, and I guess that she could surmise that she was the cause. Let me say that I was incredibly shocked when she came up to me yesterday and said that she had something really important that she wanted to talk to me about. Honestly, I thought it was going to be her trying to understand what was wrong with me or causing my change in mood, but after she sat down beside me, there was a very long and very awkward silence, and that's when I knew that this was going to be very different. Yet, I still didn't have much of an idea what was going on.
Babe, I need to talk to you about something, and it's very important.
As soon as I heard that, I could feel my heart beating in my chest because I knew that whatever it was she had to say was not going to leave me feeling good. She asked me if I remembered Alex, her ex, and I told her that I did. I added, he was a major a-hole, wasn't he? Because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't somehow thinking of the wrong person. I mean, at this point, I could smell that it might have been some kind of damage control brewing, but I still felt like her bringing it up on her own was entirely unexpected. However, I was still really anticipating where she was going to take things.
We started talking a little while back. I think it started when I posted the engagement pictures. He came to congratulate me, and we started to catch up from that point.
For clarity, I proposed to her almost a year ago. So what she was basically saying is that he had been talking for nearly a year, and she never thought that she could tell me up until now. And the worst part is that I just kind of knew that she was only confessing because she must have felt like I knew something. She didn't say anything after that for a very long time, and I just sat with her in the silence. I refused to say anything to spare her the trouble. I wanted to know what she planned to say.
It got to a point that we met up somewhere to catch up. It was strictly just to catch up and hear what had been going on in our lives over the last 10 years. He knew I was engaged after all, so I felt like it'd be fine.
At that point, I knew that there was a bombshell that was about to drop, and honestly, as much as I wanted closure up until that point, I realized how little I wanted the emotional pain that came with the closure. She started to cry a little bit at this point, and I remember feeling some kind of weird feeling in my chest. It wasn't pity, but I think it was more of anxiety or panic, because her crying just confirmed my worst fears. She didn't even need to say anything else, but I wanted her to, because I had so many questions. So for the first time I asked her, What happened?
One thing led to another and I slept with him.
Then she burst into full-blown tears at that point. Honestly, there was a twinge of pity in my chest, but it evaporated quickly. I was kind of just staring at her with her head buried in her hands, and I felt a strong sense of disgust. At that point, I wanted to fulfill my curiosity, but I also wanted to make her suffer through the discomfort in that moment. So I started to ask her every single question that was on my mind. When was this? 3 weeks ago. How many times has it happened? Once.
I swear.
Did you use protection? A pause, and then yes. Did you go down on him? More tears. Amidst the tears, did you like it? Did you finish? I didn't get an answer. She was wailing at this point. She had crumbled to the floor too. I just left her there and locked myself in the bedroom to be alone with my thoughts, because they were extremely toxic at that very point. She came to knock on the door softly and kept calling, "Babe?" I heard her repeating that she was sorry over and over and over again in between the waterworks, but I really didn't want to listen to her, so I told her to leave. Thankfully, she actually did. But you know what? The reason I'm here is because I've figured out what I'm going to do. I've been able to really think about it, and as much as I know that this marriage is over, I'm going to make a spectacle of it. I need to make sure that she realizes that might have been the biggest mistake of her life. I want her to feel real pain and true humiliation. So I'm going to go through with the wedding. At least make it seem so. But I could never get married to someone like her. Sometimes all a person needs is a cold shower and they crumble like a sandcastle. All it took was you stepping back and letting her reveal her own weaknesses, OP. The more you maintained your distance, the more her own actions and guilt did the heavy lifting. People are their own worst enemies, and their own choices become the very tools of their undoing. As for your plan to make a spectacle of the wedding, that's a bold move, but I'm here for it. Update 2. So, it is finally done, and my goodness, it was spectacular. Honestly, my ex-fiancée was the love of my life, and before the whole thing with Alex started, I always wanted the very best for her. I wanted to see her flourish and enjoy life and be happy, and I would stop at nothing to make sure that I could give her all of that. However, I'm surprised at how easily I could direct all my vitriol at her and not even feel a single thing. All it took was her cheating on me with her ex and keeping the fact that she was talking to him a secret. For a whole year. I'm sure she must have slept with him more than once, but she was doing damage control. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. When the wedding day came, I sat all of my groomsmen down and broke the news to them. I let them know that there wasn't going to be a marriage at the ending of the wedding, and I let them know that my fiancée had cheated on me with her ex. Needless to say, they were all pissed. I didn't hold myself back during the bachelor party because I already knew I was done. I wasn't going to waste a night like that where I could have plenty of fun for a woman who had already had her fun. It was a great night though, of course. It was soured by the fact that I knew it wasn't a real bachelor party, since I had stopped considering it to be a real wedding since the time I wrote my last update. Anyway, the day come and I was up there next to the minister when she came walking down the aisle with her father. Honestly, I have to admit that she looked gorgeous, and I wish I had the opportunity to see her walk down the aisle as a good woman and not as a cheater. But it is what it is. When she got up, I tried my best to keep a face that didn't give anything away. I think the groomsmen did a worse job of it than I did. When the minister got to the point about anyone with objections, there was a silence as expected, but as soon as I saw him about to move his lips, I raised my hand and said that I had an objection. I heard murmurs amongst the guests, but I was staring at my fiancée and her face went pale as a ghost. Thinking back to it is hilarious. Right there, I began to talk about how she had cheated on me with her ex named Alex. Just a few weeks before that moment, I talked about how she had been cheating with him for ages and keeping it a secret from me. I talked about how she claimed she had used protection with him, but I didn't believe it. I made it clear in front of the guests that I would get myself tested. I talked about how I was sure they had slept together a lot more than the one mistake she had told me. Throughout the entire thing, she was frozen there beside me. The audience was going crazy and I could see her dad was furious, probably more at me. I made it clear to everyone that I couldn't have anything to do with a slut. Talk less for the rest of my life. Don't blame me for this. Blame her. That was the last thing I said before I decided to walk off. Several people tried to stop me, but I brushed off every single one of them until I was in one of my groomsmen's cars. Honestly, I felt so good at the end of it, and my phone started to ring over and over at that point. I was getting a lot of text messages too, but I didn't reply to anybody. It was a lot of money down the drain, but at the end of the day, she had her way, and I was glad I was able to handle the wedding my way too. The day after, I had so many messages from people commiserating with me, apologizing on her behalf, asking me to try again, and full on denigrating her. I was just glad I was able to cause all that drama and put her at the center of it. It felt pretty dang good to know that I had been able to humiliate her in front of almost everyone that was important to her. She's called me, but I haven't picked up a single one of those calls. It helps that I know from the start that I wasn't going to take her back. I suggest the same thing to all of you out there. Never ever forgive cheating, no matter what. It's not worth it.